They went too far this time. Way too far. What started as tennis tension at the Australian Open just exploded into the biggest disciplinary scandal of the season, and the tennis world is absolutely reeling. American star Alycia Parks has been hit with an indefinite suspension and a massive fine after allegedly crossing a line so vicious, so personal, that even hardened tennis veterans are calling it unforgivable. We're talking about words that weaponized family tragedy, that turned a mother's illness into ammunition, that showed just how ugly professional sports can get when competitors forget where competition ends and cruelty begins. But here's where this story becomes even more dramatic. While Parks faces the consequences of her actions, while the tennis establishment scrambles to contain the fallout, Eala has returned home to the Philippines for something extraordinary. The first ever WTA-sanctioned event on Filipino soil, the WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open, and the entire nation has lost its mind with excitement. We're talking sold-out crowds, historic debuts, rising stars making their mark, and Eala positioned at the absolute center of it all, carrying the weight of a country's dreams while still processing what happened in Melbourne. This is a story about honor and disrespect, about consequences and redemption, about one athlete's darkest moment becoming another's motivation. This is about a line that should never be crossed in sports, and what happens when someone crosses it anyway. Buckle up, because this is going to be intense, emotional, and absolutely unforgettable. Let's start with the bombshell that dropped and sent shockwaves through every level of professional tennis. The news came through official channels just hours ago, and the severity of the punishment immediately signaled that something extraordinary had happened. Alycia Parks, the American player known for her powerful serve and occasionally fiery on-court temperament, has been slapped with a $2,000 fine and, far more significantly, an indefinite suspension by tennis authorities. Read that again. Indefinite suspension. Not a warning, not a slap on the wrist, not a few weeks cooling off. Indefinite means her career is in limbo until further notice, her ranking frozen, her schedule obliterated, her reputation in absolute tatters. Now, tennis fans know that fines are relatively common in professional tennis. Smash a racket in frustration, and you're looking at a few $100s. Curse loudly enough for the microphones to catch it, and that'll cost you. Take too long between points repeatedly, and the umpire will dock you. These are standard disciplinary measures that happen dozens of times throughout a season. But an indefinite suspension? That's extraordinarily rare. That's the kind of punishment reserved for the most serious violations, the kind that threaten the integrity of the sport itself, or cross ethical boundaries so severe that immediate action becomes necessary. So what on earth happened to warrant this level of response? The incident traces back to that tense, emotionally charged first-round match at the Australian Open just days ago. Everyone who was watching remembers it. Eala versus Parks. The scoreline ultimately went Parks' way, but anyone paying attention could feel something was wrong. The atmosphere wasn't just competitive, it was hostile in a way that felt different from normal on-court intensity. The tension was thick enough to suffocate, the energy dark and uncomfortable. We all saw the body language, the cold stares, the way both players seemed to be fighting battles that had nothing to do with backhands and volleys. According to exclusive sources close to the situation, sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because of the sensitive nature of what transpired, the conflict didn't stay confined to tennis shots. In the heat of competition during changeovers and between points, remarks were allegedly hurled by Parks that went far beyond acceptable trash talk. And these weren't generic insults about tennis ability or competitive toughness. These were deeply personal attacks targeting something sacred. Eala's family. Specifically, according to multiple sources who have now confirmed the details, the insults were directed at Alex's mother. For those who follow Alex's journey closely, and if you've been paying attention at all, you know this, her mother is absolutely everything to her. She's the rock of the Eala family, the driving force behind Alex's career, the person who sacrificed alongside her father to make this impossible dream possible. But here's the heartbreaking context that makes this alleged incident so unconscionable. Mrs. Eala is currently battling a serious illness, This isn't public information that she's shared openly for sympathy or attention. This is a private family struggle that has kept her from traveling, kept her from being in the player's box during Alex's matches, kept her from providing the support and comfort that any mother would desperately want to give her daughter during the most stressful moments of her career. For an opponent to allegedly weaponize that pain, to use a mother's absence caused by illness as a sledging tactic, to turn private suffering into public humiliation, it's frankly beyond comprehension. Sources indicate that the comments caused immediate and profound emotional distress, not just to Alex, who had to stand there and process this cruelty while simultaneously trying to maintain her competitive focus, but to her entire family. Imagine being a mother watching from a hospital bed or recovery room, unable to be there physically to protect your child, and hearing that your own medical struggle was being used as an insult on an international stage. The devastation is unimaginable. The backlash was instant and absolutely ferocious. The incident didn't stay contained within the tennis bubble. It exploded across traditional sports media and set social media platforms on fire. Twitter erupted with hashtags like Justice for Eala and Respect in Tennis that began trending within hours of the match concluding. Filipino fans, already passionate supporters of their national star, were absolutely livid. But it wasn't just Filipinos expressing outrage. Tennis fans from around the world, players past and present, commentators, journalists, people who understand that competition has boundaries, they all weighed in condemning what had allegedly occurred. The outcry was so immediate, so widespread, and so unified that it prompted tennis authorities to act with unusual speed. Typically, investigations into player conduct can take weeks or even months. Committees review evidence, statements are collected, lawyers get involved, appeals processes drag out timelines. But in this case, the governing bodies understood that waiting would only make things worse. They needed to send an absolutely clear message about ethical boundaries and the fundamental spirit of sportsmanship that's supposed to govern professional tennis. This wasn't about being overly sensitive or politically correct. This was about drawing a line and making it unmistakably clear that certain behavior won't be tolerated regardless of competitive pressure or emotional intensity. The suspension being indefinite means Parks is now in professional limbo. Her ranking will freeze at its current position, meaning she can't earn new points or improve her standing. Her prize money from future tournaments is obviously on hold because she can't compete. Her sponsorship agreements are almost certainly being reviewed by brands wondering whether they want to be associated with this kind of controversy. And perhaps most significantly, she faces a massive uphill battle if she ever wants to win back the respect of her peers in the locker room. Professional tennis is a small world. Players know each other, travel together, practice together. Reputation matters enormously. And right now, Alycia Parks' reputation has been absolutely demolished. As of this moment, we're still waiting for an official statement from Parks' camp. Will she issue a public apology? Will she appeal the suspension? Will she claim the comments were misunderstood or taken out of context? The silence so far is deafening, and that silence is its own form of communication. For Eala, the response is much simpler and infinitely more powerful. The best revenge isn't words or legal action or social media posts. The best revenge is success. And she's preparing to serve that revenge ice cold right here in Manila. Let's shift from the darkness of that controversy to the absolutely glorious scene unfolding right now in the Philippines. Alycia is home. After the heartbreaking exit in Melbourne, after processing the ugliness of the Parks incident, after enduring scrutiny and sympathy in equal measure, Alex touched down in Manila to a hero's welcome that must have felt like a healing embrace. And the timing couldn't be more cinematically perfect because the Philippines is hosting something historic. The WTA 125 Philippine Women's Open is officially here, happening right now. And tennis fans across the country are losing their minds with excitement. For decades, Filipino tennis enthusiasts have dreamed of this moment. The country has hosted ITF tournaments, lower-level events that attract regional players. They've hosted Davis Cup ties and Fed Cup matches that generate brief bursts of attention. But never, not once in the history of Philippine tennis, has the Women's Tennis Association brought an official sanctioned tour event to these shores. Until now. This is history being written in real time, and Eala is the main character in the story. The Rizal Memorial Tennis Center has undergone a massive transformation to prepare for this moment. Reports from people on the ground describe pristine blue hard courts that mimic the speed and bounce characteristics of the Australian Open. The bleachers have been expanded to accommodate the enormous crowds expected. The lighting has been upgraded to broadcast quality because this event will be televised nationally and streamed internationally. Tournament organizers knew Alex was coming. They knew Filipino fans would show up in overwhelming numbers, and they've delivered an experience worthy of the occasion. The atmosphere is absolutely electric. It's humid, genuinely tropical humidity that makes every movement feel heavier. It's loud, with crowds that bring the passion and volume that Filipino sports fans are famous for worldwide. And it's unapologetically, proudly Filipino. This isn't some sanitized corporate tennis event. This is tennis filtered through Filipino culture with all the energy, emotion, and national pride that implies. For Alex, this tournament represents everything. She's the number 2 seed, the highest-ranked Filipino player in the draw. She's the face on billboards along EDSA, the main thoroughfare through Metro Manila. She's the reason ticket sales have gone through the roof. She's the symbol of possibility for an entire generation. And the draw has been officially revealed. And folks, it is absolutely spicy. The round of 32 main draw matches were unveiled this past Saturday, and Eala has an immediate target on her back. Her opening match will be against Alina Korishvili of Russia, and this is not a gimme match by any stretch of the imagination. Let me break down exactly why this opening round is so dangerous. Alina Korishvili is a formidable baseline grinder, the kind of player who thrives on consistency and patience. She hit a career-high ranking of 142 back in September 2024, which means she's been competing successfully at this level for a while now. She understands what it takes to win matches at WTA 125 events. She has 6 ITF titles to her name, proving she knows how to close out tournaments and handle pressure situations. She was a finalist at a WTA 125 event, demonstrating she can string together multiple quality wins against legitimate professionals. She's made tour-level debuts at WTA 500 events, meaning she's competed on the biggest stages and isn't intimidated by atmosphere or occasion. But here's the detail that makes this matchup genuinely dangerous. These two have history. They've faced each other before way back on the ITF circuit in 2020 at a W15 tournament in Spain. And in that match, Korishvili defeated a very young Alycia. She has a win over Alex in her back pocket. She knows she can beat her. That psychological edge, that knowledge that you've solved this opponent before, that's enormously valuable in tennis. Mental confidence matters as much as physical ability at the professional level. However, and this is crucial, that was 2020. That was junior Alex, still developing her game, still learning how to compete as a professional. The Eala of 2026 is a completely different player. She's a Grand Slam junior champion. She's competed in major draws. She's faced top 50 players and pushed them to their limits. She's developed weapons, particularly her lefty forehand, that can dominate matches when she's locked in. She's mentally tougher, more experienced, more dangerous. Korishvili's game plan will be predictable because it's her only path to victory. She'll play heavy, consistent ground strokes, trying to extend rallies and wait for Alex to make errors. She'll try to negate Alex's power by getting everything back, forcing her to hit one more ball, then one more until frustration creeps in. She knows Alex is coming off an emotionally draining week in Australia. She knows Alex is under immense pressure to perform for the home crowd. She'll try to silence the Rizal Memorial crowd by frustrating Alex early, taking the energy out of the building by making the match ugly and uncomfortable. But Alex has advantages that should prove decisive if she plays anywhere near her capability. Her lefty serve creates uncomfortable angles for right-handed players, and the statistics show that left-handed players have a slight but measurable advantage in professional tennis simply because opponents face that serve and spin pattern less frequently. Her forehand has been clocking higher speeds this season, genuinely dangerous pace that can end points quickly when she steps into it. And perhaps most importantly, she'll have the energy of thousands of Filipino fans, creating an atmosphere unlike anything Korishvili has experienced. This match is scheduled for a primetime slot because organizers understand exactly what they have. The entire nation will be tuned in. Living rooms, sports bars, public viewing areas, social media streams, millions of Filipinos will be watching simultaneously. The pressure is immense, but pressure can also be fuel. If Alex can channel the anger and hurt from the Parks incident, if she can transform the love and support of the Manila crowd into positive competitive energy, she has the ability to blow Karashvili off the court. This should be a straight sets Alex victory, but tennis rarely follows the script. Expect tension, expect drama, expect Alex to face moments where she has to dig deep and remember why she's fighting. While Alex is the undeniable headliner, the Philippine Women's Open is showcasing something equally important: the depth of Filipino tennis talent. This isn't a one-player nation anymore. There's a generation of young Filipino players who've watched Alex's journey and decided they want to follow that path, who've dedicated themselves to a sport that their country barely supported a decade ago, who are now getting their chance to shine on home soil. We have to give massive recognition to Stephanie Aludo, and if you don't know that name yet, you will soon. This 17-year-old sensation from Quezon del Sur, currently studying while competing at the highest levels, just carved her name into Philippine tennis history books. Stephanie Aludo has become the first ever winner of a WTA match on Philippine soil. Let that sink in for a moment. The very first Filipino to win an official WTA match in the Philippines. That's history. That's the kind of achievement that gets remembered decades from now. In the qualifying round this past Saturday, she faced fellow Filipina Angelique Alcala in what had to be an emotionally complicated match. Playing against a compatriot when only one of you advances is always difficult, but Aludo showed absolutely no mercy. The scoreline was a demolition, 6-1, 6-love. She was ruthless in the best possible way. Reports from Courtside described her hitting blistering forehands from the opening game and never letting up, winning 6-love in the second set, delivering what tennis players call a bagel in your first WTA appearance. That demonstrates ice-cold composure and absolute confidence. Stephanie Aludo now moves forward to face Sakura Hosogi of Japan in the next round of qualifiers. Hosogi is more experienced with tour-level matches under her belt, but Aludo has momentum, confidence, and a home crowd that's already fallen in love with her fearless style. If she gets through this match, she enters the main draw alongside Eala, and suddenly the Philippines has two legitimate contenders in the same tournament. Let's look at the other Filipino warriors who've secured their spots in the main draw, because these women are diving into the deep end against world-class competition. Elizabeth Abarcas takes on Mai Hontama of Japan, and this is genuinely a tough draw. Hontama is a legitimate tour-level player who made her main draw debut at the Australian Open back in 2024. She plays flat, aggressive tennis with minimal margin for error. Abarcas will need to serve exceptionally well and find ways to disrupt Hontama's rhythm. It's a classic underdog scenario, and everyone loves rooting for the underdog, especially when she's Filipino playing at home. Kaya Amina faces Tatiana Prozorova of Russia. Amina, one of the rising stars from the collegiate tennis system, draws the 22-year-old Russian who holds 7 ITF titles and has been ranked as high as 140. Prozorova is no pushover. She's been competing professionally for years and knows how to win matches. Emine will need the match of her life, but playing at home does strange, wonderful things to probability. If she can harness the crowd energy, if she can play without fear, anything becomes possible. Tenny Midis versus Mananchaya Sawangkayo of Thailand gives us a Southeast Asian derby. Midis takes on Thailand's pride, and Sawangkayo is in excellent form, having reached the final of a WTA 125 event in Mumbai recently. She understands Asian playing conditions. She's accustomed to humidity and heat. This will be a battle of speed, agility, and mental toughness. Midis is the underdog on paper, but she's a fighter who won't quit easily. Also in the qualifying mix, Lorraine Gulihon is battling for her spot. Every single one of these Filipino players represents something bigger than individual achievement. They represent possibility for thousands of young Filipino kids who are watching and dreaming.